correct?
Correct.
Okay. Number 3 was going to be someone coming to talk about some other things going on in different cities in the state, but she couldn't attend tonight. We're going to try to get her here at a future meeting. It's actually ODOT has a bicycle pedestrian coordinator for the state now, and so I emailed back and forth with her a little bit this past week, and she's really excited about meeting folks around the state and seeing what different communities are doing and kind of sharing ideas from one place to the other. So that's something that will hopefully happen. We'll table that for a future meeting. Introduction of new board member and staff representation. You guys just met. Have you met Cody? Okay. Okay. And
what was your name, Cody?
Cody Mosley. And my title with the city is Community and Economic Development Director. And Yvonne and I were actually hired on the same day.
The same day.
We went through HR training together.
Mm-hmm.
What else do we need to talk about in terms of?
I just kind of want to let you guys be introduced to Clarice. Say your last name because I'm going to butcher it.
Riando.
Riando. Okay. I wasn't going to be too far off, but Clarice is joining us. Dr. John Wood is no longer a member of this committee from City Council, and so City Council is now represented by Clarice. And so I just kind of wanted to give her a second to talk to you about her background.
This is more of my comfort zone, believe it or not. When I was in Afghanistan for a year, I worked with base operations, and under base operations I was in the master planning office, and pretty much any project that was going on the base, if it were building, a water project, a road, it would come across my desk, and I would organize the project, and then I would bring it to the meeting where it would be voted on or voted down, depending on what people decided they wanted to do on the base. So that's my experience. But as far as civilian experience, I don't really have any, but military experience I do.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right. So next is discussion of commission goals. Cody and I have emailed a little bit about this. Like, from the city's perspective right now, like, what do you see as coming in from, like, Renee retired, you coming in, like what are your thoughts on the goals of the Transportation Authority at this point?
Well, I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth, if you don't mind. I'm sorry,
Yep,
I should have thought about this a little bit better, but
No problem.
I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between item 5 and item 6, just because I want, Clarice and I were talking earlier before the meeting got started. I want to make sure that we all, I'm sure, have plenty of meetings to go to. And so Yvonne and I were in a meeting for about an hour and a half earlier today. I want to make sure that we have good content and people are taking away really good, momentum from these meetings. And so, and I don't want to meet just to meet, because you guys volunteering is a huge gift to the city. The city, I really don't think could operate as well as we do without the volunteers. And so I want to make sure that we're putting good content out there. And so Justin and I I think that we do pretty good communication throughout the work week about what we'd like to see. If you want to talk about something, I'm all ears. I'll talk to Justin about putting it on the agenda. If it's wayfinding signage, if you consider that transportation, it's really an open book. But right now, I'd love to hear any goals that you would have. Anything that we need to focus on. Obviously, if you look behind you, we are still interested in our downtown improvement project. The background on that was the money coming to support this was generated during the Gentleman of the Road concert with Mumford and Sons. Like I just kind of hinted at, we're looking for grant funding to kind of stretch those dollars. Engineering is underway. group out of Dallas, Latera Studios. Very excited to really get to work. They kind of have a passion for Guthrie. If we want to talk about these goals and what you want to see kind of Guthrie moving forward, like I said, I want to make sure that you guys are provided great content from these meetings, and I want to make sure that if we ask you to come join us for 15, 30 minutes or an hour, that you find your time well worth it. So.
I do have a question. You remember when we were talking about, when Renee was here, about the stretch of sidewalk going down Division? And I guess that had been voted on versus it going out behind and around and all that. So, I mean, where is that?
That whole, that concept is basically at, it's always scared me how long ago things have been. But when that, it's technically referred to as a feasibility study was done for that stretch, I think probably 4 or 5 years ago now. And so it had like the bare bones of that plan laid out with, estimates on cost. It got to the point where we had that plan, we have the, drawings and estimates, and that's as far as that got.
Okay, because I know it was going to be like an add-on to what was happening here, and then it was just going to kind of, they were going to kind of complement each other. And that's what we had spoken of anyway. So I just didn't,
Did they ever decide on a location for the town square?
The town square project itself is kind of wiped away, and luckily we have the chairman of the Downtown Improvements Committee here, so he can talk on anything that I might miss. But the actual idea that they ended up deciding on was welcoming people to downtown through Division, making it easier to cross Division.
Only doing the bump outs?
Bump outs and a little bit of streetscaping as well. Does that sound right?
When
Chairman.
when that committee first started looking at how to make improvements to downtown, the initial idea was trying to figure out some way of doing like the town square type deal, and I think two things happened. One, people started to realize that the amount of funds that were available weren't anywhere near enough to accomplish, some of the ideas that were kind of bundled up in that town square idea. And also, on top of that, the idea of connecting both sides, trying to do something to connect both sides of Division really became the focus of that group. So at the end, that ended up being like the main idea was what can we do to make it easier for connectivity on both sides of the Division, the east and west businesses. And so the intersection of Harrison and the intersection of Oklahoma on Division kind of became, that's the focus now of that group. And I think depending on grant funding, how far we can stretch the city's dollars, we'll see how much of that plan of both intersections gets accomplished right now.
It sounded pretty expensive when we were at that meeting. I was like, whoa, how are they going to come up with that kind of money just for extending a sidewalk? I mean, it sounds, but when they got into all the details of all of it.
Any time that you get into municipal engineering,
It's expensive.
dollars become pennies.
It's a horrifying amount of money.
Yeah.
I thought, that's crazy.
Yeah. That's why most communities that try to tackle something like even a project like that, or a project like something down South Division from the Central Business District to the retail areas down there, almost every time those are broken up into small sections that are done over time. And the plan for I always call it South Division, but I don't think that's technically right. People refer to South Division, I think they usually refer to like things that are way down past Walmart. But basically, that study that was that came out of this group a few years ago was focused solely on from the central business district down to Walmart. And I guess that document lies in your office now, correct?
It does. It does.
But it does, I mean, it is like a perfect complement to what's going to happen with that project too. And hopefully whatever gets done out of that, and this is another thing that group really wanted, the result of that, they hope, is a catalyst for other things. Once the community sees that this is what we can accomplish with, this amount of dollars gets us this. Because the conversation, throughout the entire time I've been on this committee, as well as other committees, was what do we even know what we can accomplish for a certain amount of money? We don't know. And one of the cool things that's going to come out of that project is, okay, now we're going to know exactly how much. If we want to do this to an intersection, if we want to make this intersection in front of us right here to if we want to improve it this much, we know it'll take this much money, as opposed to us going, man, if we just had $1 million, we could do something, right? In terms of like the transportation authority's goals going forward, like, since you two are the new people on the block, like getting into this, what are your thoughts on why did you want to get involved in this? What did you want to see different about Guthrie by you being involved in this?
Well,
What did you think you were getting into when you?
Well, no, I was born here, and Guthrie is just always a place you come back to. I've lived in, moved up to New Hampshire, North Carolina, Arkansas. I've been around, but the charm of Guthrie and the historic value and the efforts that's already been put into keeping it that way is, you just can't, I want to be a part of, helping further, keeping Guthrie and its charm on the map to where it's a place people want to come. And so, however and wherever I can be to help do that, that's what I want to do.
Any thoughts?
I wasn't born here, but I've been here since junior high. And I have kids, and I like Guthrie. I actually teach in Enid, and so it's a long drive, but
Oh yeah.
I can't bring myself to move there. It's not cute, it's not pretty, it's not Guthrie, and I think that, Guthrie kind of, I don't mean to be mean, but they kind of cater to the older population, and they don't really have a lot for kids here. And so, like, getting in sidewalks and, things like that are important for kids. And, I think, is it Bonnie talks about getting in bike trails and stuff like that. And so I think that's important.
I really do.
You want to what?
A catwalk.
Where would the catwalk go?
Well, you can do it, like we talked about what's fixing to happen to, Division, when they put the new viaduct in and stuff, and, crossings, I think you can go under at some point, but, even now, it's, because I like to walk it, but, you still have to be careful, but I thought down there by Mineral Wells, from one side to the other, a catwalk down there somewhere, or because Cottonwood Flats is down there, because I know I volunteered for Mumford & Sons and did the ticket, and people were coming in, and because of how everything was blocked off and what have you, they were over here, but they couldn't get over to their campsites. And I'm thinking, if we had a catwalk, it wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
So
It seems like they should have something already. I talked to Renee about that we need something that crosses from that area over to here. If you want people in downtown and all the festivals end up down there, then you should have something that's safe for them to walk over here.
But it also has an awesome catwalk in a couple of places. And I just think they're awesome.
Yeah. Well, cool. I like where this is going because Cody and I were talking the other day about kind of the history of this committee, and my understanding that going back into the not so distant past, the main role of this group when it first started out was this kind of a really odd purpose of working on like a tour train type idea, where we're a dinner train that would go from Guthrie up to Enid and back, and that was kind of like what this group focused on originally. And right before I came on board to this committee, that whole idea and project is kind of fizzled out and disappeared. And those of us who were new to the group, most of us had kind of like that passion for pedestrian and bicycle connectivity. And so that's kind of like where we went with it. And that's kind of like, that's one of like my big passions now is still like, bike ped, walkability, bikeability, that kind of stuff. Which doesn't, preclude us from working on other things too, but that, I think that feels like still like a pretty big priority that really falls in line with the strengths of Guthrie. The economic development stuff and different things with the arts and the CVV kind of thing, that really it fits really good with the walkability pedestrian type stuff too. So your thoughts on any of that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It does blend real well, and I'm thinking that's probably why we have the staff member to manage that. And so, but I thought that was a really unique perspective, and so I'm excited.
Cool. Okay, in terms of like goals going forward, one of the problems, not a problem, but just kind of like the quirks of this committee has been coming together and talking about some like, wouldn't it be great if we had something like this, like this, like this, and it was always kind of like having the same conversation every month. One of the cool things about having that project happening now is that we're going to have something, a tangible change in the walkability and connectivity of downtown Guthrie. And so I think that gives a little bit of a catalyst for this group going forward. I think once the business community and the citizens of Guthrie see things start to change, I think that gives us kind of a door to walk through, and how we can, that group doesn't want that kind of stuff to end after that project is over. So I think there's probably some way for us to be a supportive, maybe even a catalyst for more of that happening. I'm not exactly sure how that's can happen, but I think now is the perfect time for this committee to really start to accomplish things, not necessarily by ourselves, but to finding ways to work with the broader group of people downtown and throughout Guthrie who want to see things like that happen. So I think that I'm not exactly sure how that's going to happen, but there's got to be some way for us to support more of that. Because that kind of like snuck up on us after the Mumford & Sons thing, and it ended up being a bike ped or a walking kind of emphasis, where at the beginning it was kind of like, well, we can do this or this or this, and some of that had to do with pedestrian walkability kind of stuff, but some of it didn't. But now all of a sudden that's an incredible looking transportation authority type project. So I think it'll be cool, like in the future, for us to find a way of supporting that kind of stuff in whatever capacity this committee can. Thoughts on that? Am I making sense at all?
I do.
Okay.
I hope with this group that we close that gap between trying to do things that benefit the tourist versus things that benefit citizens. Because I think there's a huge gap there, and I know they kind of overlap and whatever, but as far as the business community and the actual citizen, there's different opinions. And trying to keep everyone happy and try to, build up the town and, I don't mean, how would you say that? I think you understand because you have children, and I'm the same way. I think of it as a place of where my children are growing up. I don't think of it as how many tourists we're going to bring to Guthrie. I don't, there's just different, people see things differently.
Well, I know, I have children, but they're just very big, very large. I do know this, that, like I said, I was born here and then I moved away and then I come back. And, my parents live here, my grandfather built the house that they live in, and, we've got some history. And but my boys that are, older, 23 to 29 years old, they've lived in Tulsa, and Tulsa's a really awesome place. There's lots of things to do there, and, you never run out and whatever. But, so their idea of coming here is like, what do I want to go there for? There's nothing to do. Well, I want to change that because, my youngest is living with me now, fixing to start college at OSU. And I want to, I'm thinking, I want to change this, I want to bring him out and he hasn't really explored, and that sort of thing. But I know he's not the only one that would think that, So it just kind of opened my mind and my thoughts and, ideas as to, how do we, reach out and grab these different age groups to where, they want to come back, or they want to, hey, Guthrie's kind of cool after all, kind of thing.
I think creating all the spaces, like the walkways through downtown and everything. When I lived in Virginia for a year with my kids, and there's nothing where we used to walk, but people flocked there, and all it was this path that goes over the James River. We lived in Lynchburg, and that's it. It's just a big, long walking path, but it's through nature. They didn't really do anything other than provide you a path, but people flock to it, and it's pretty. So, and Guthrie has lots of nature areas that we don't use, and if they just provide paths, then we would have the ability to explore Guthrie.
But even downtown, I think the shops need to stay open later.
Right.
They just do.
Or be open on the weekends, or
Later. Because people work till 5, and if they're commuting back, and how cool would it be to, walk downtown and cafe or get coffee or even a little, to end the day or what have you. I know maybe that's a tall order, but we have a really cool downtown. It's just beautiful. So to be able to actually experience that in the evening would be awesome. Boneyard's open, Stables, Stables isn't really downtown, but, there's just not,
Renee says you have to make the business owners do that, and we can't make them do anything.
Well, you can't make them, but, of course you can't. But it's about, I think you can be awfully convincing. I think we could, put a carrot in front of a horse and you might get somewhere. So we just got to figure out what the carrot is.
In terms of getting somewhere, trying to get past just having the same conversations, every month. What would you guys think about if we say we started a conversation of what these future goals are going to be? Maybe Cody comes up with a list of 3 or 4 main priorities for this group. And I don't know, this is just brainstorming. Say you sent out a list of totally giving you things to do. So sorry about that.
No, that's what I'm there for.
So let's say Cody sends out a list of 7 or 8 or 9 different things. obviously there's there's some weird open meetings act things we have to, but as individuals, even replying back to Cody with individual thoughts on, okay, these are the priorities. I see items 4, 5, and 6 are more important to me than whatever else. Come to some kind of consensus on what we think are the 3 or 4 main objectives or priorities for this group. Projects, whatever those 3 or 4 things are, and then saying, this is kind of the perfect spot for us now because we're right towards the holidays. We could say, okay, in 2015, here's what we want to improve in those 4 different areas. And Cody and I have had a little bit of discussion about how the possibility of, instead of meeting every month, in the city
trust.
The language the city has that kind of governs this board, it says we only have to meet once a quarter. What do you guys think about the idea of, if we can come up with things, benchmarks we want to accomplish by quarter? Do you think that works for us? To say, if we come up with goals for the year of 2015, also breaking that down in goals for each quarter and meeting each quarter to review those, and giving Cody guidance and feedback on what the city can do to work on these, whatever those things are. Does that sound like, am I being super vague to where that doesn't make sense, or does that feel like something that's, what are you guys feeling with that idea?
Feels like long gaps.
Yeah.
Long gaps? Okay.
Well,
I haven't seen Van, and he just resigned from the board,
Yeah.
but I haven't seen him since Castania's 4th of July party. So I don't know,
Yeah.
it feels like really long
Okay.
gaps.
And just because the trust says you only have to meet quarterly, doesn't mean that we can't put special meetings together. We can always, if you wanted to meet every week, give me fair warning first. But technically you could. We can still meet 12 times a year if that's what we need to make sure that goals are being met. But just there was a little bit of confusion in the past, probably, do you think 12 months, to where we were told with this committee that there were monthly meetings? Would you agree with that?
I think it was I think the confusion was, are we going to have a meeting or not?
Right.
And do we have things to discuss or not? What about the idea of having, I enjoy having timetables for things. What if we, if we come up with things that, we want to accomplish in 2015, are able to break those things down into, quarterly benchmarks, and then obviously we have to have a meeting at least once a quarter, have meetings once a quarter with additional meetings as needed. Or the only thing that I don't want to do is for us to come back a month from now, and just because we have to, not because we have anything to actually accomplish at that meeting. So
That goes back to a little bit of the quality content that I hope that you guys take out of each meeting as well.
And maybe I'm sure it will, whatever our projects and goals are, I'm sure will determine, how often we need to meet. If there's a significant amount of, if a project requires tons of input from us for Cody to accomplish something, then we just have to meet a whole lot. But we also don't want to, I can't meet every week. I'm sure many of you can either. But,
Which one of it?
So, in terms of how we go about, setting our goals and objectives for 2015, what are your thoughts on that process?
Oh, I think it's a good idea to set that up, so that we know what we're coming to the table to do, or to discuss, or to define, or to, so we know what we're supposed to be working on. To sit and say, this is what we'd like, this is what, well, how are we going to get there? How are we going to do it? and then move forward with that. Cause that's, you know, that's what we need to do. And of course saying, okay, so we have this time frame to accomplish this. Of course, that's wonderful. That's exactly how it should be.
What if between now and a January meeting, I don't know if that Cody can start, you know, kind of formulating some of those, you know, broad options for us, like priorities for us to focus on, and you can get input back from us. And who's not here tonight? Bonnie.
Bonnie and Melissa.
Yeah, and we're down a member with Van resigning, but getting input back from us in terms of what our priority areas are going to be going forward, and then ideas on what projects can support those priority areas. Then maybe at January's meeting, we start looking at, okay, this is what by the end of the first quarter we want to accomplish this. That kind of, so in January's meeting we start setting those quarterly goals for the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound?
That sounds doable.
Okay.
Gives us focus,
Okay.
and that's important.
So between tonight and next month's meeting, we're working on just priority areas. So then, I don't think we want to have like 8 or 9 priority areas. Probably just 3 or 4 or 5 different things that this group is going to be focusing on for the near future. And then that next month's meeting, we'll start hammering out
Like a deadline.
different objectives and goals for those priority areas of the next year. Does that sound okay? Cool.
That way we feel like we're doing something. not
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Having meetings.
Yeah, well, even if it gives us an ability to say, okay, if we meet at the end of the first quarter, we can at least say, man, we sucked at this for the first quarter. Wow, we did awful. To me, that feels better than going, what are we? Better than scratching our heads and wondering what just happened in the last 3 months. Okay, so it sounds like a meeting date for this same Monday next month for January. Is that something that for sure?
Or Tuesday.
Is this Tuesday?
Today is still Tuesday.
You're right. Yeah. Tuesday sounds
The
good.
closer we get to Christmas, the more blurred it's all getting. I thought it was Thursday.
Okay. On your end, Cody, does that sound like a good process to you?
Absolutely.
From the city staff's point of view.
Another thing that meeting more regularly than quarterly meetings will provide me is opportunity to make sure that you guys are equipped if you get asked about anything. I mean, obviously you guys kind of carry a certain stature in the community when the community knows that you're sitting on a board, and so I don't want to ever blindside you with or have you be blindsided with a question that you might not know the answer to. I want if you get a question asked, we want you to be equipped to answer it right away, and it is kind of embarrassing sometimes whenever you get asked about something and you're like,
Yeah, there were already people complaining about division becoming vision,
oh yeah,
and about the bump outs and how would a
Thank
semi
you.
go past them and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. So we'll try and avoid those situations moving forward. But yeah, I'd love to put together my vision for kind of these 9 priorities being dwindled down. Is I can't just put like I've got my list going right now. I can't just put downtown, but I'll talk about what downtown would really mean in a full capacity. What kind of grants might be available, those kinds of things, and so that way you're.
Are you going to be in charge of that?
Yeah, I'll try and take care of those. We do a lot of our grant work with a partnership with the health department and Courtney McLemore over there.
Okay.
So we'll try and put together. It might be a PowerPoint is what I might end up sending you. Justin kind of hinted at it earlier. The whole open meetings thing. I can send you guys all sorts of information as long as you just reply to me that's perfectly fine. If you reply to more than 3 people in that group, it's a violation of Open Meetings Act. And so, but I'll put that whole thing in the presentation as well, just saying, I'd love to hear your opinion. Please make sure that we're not violating any rules. Reply to me directly.
If you reply to more than 3, Cody gets fired. So, don't let that happen.
Pretty much.
So reply, not reply to all.
Right, right.
Cody, something, would you mind, if it's possible, like, where that process is right now is the architectural schematics have been sent to ODOT.
Yes.
Because it's a state highway, so they have to give their blessing on state highway junk. Like, would it be possible for you to email that schematic to them so they could take a look at it? It gives all the, just drawings of what exactly things are now and what exactly the things are going to be, changed according to that architect. So everything down from the concrete to sewer stuff to putting a bush here or a tree here, that kind of stuff. All that's included in that architectural stuff.
And we all see how municipal engineering can cost a lot of money.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of stuff on there that I have no idea what it means.
Right.
I'm kind of a little off topic, but the bridge, when's that time frame supposed to be?
The
VDOT. Sorry.
the I don't
He
know the
said
proper
the map
term.
and it reminded me of our
the
big map.
buyouts, I guess, from ODOT. I don't know if that's the proper term right now, but the buyouts, as far as property is taking place right now, the process will kind of rest largely on that. If you've looked at the news lately, you've seen that there's been some problems with the buyouts, obviously, through Department of Transportation and the property owners, but the buyout process is going to determine a lot of when the starting date is. As far as start to completion, they feel like they're pretty secure in their timeline. I think, what was it, roughly 8 months was their original timeline from, like I said, construction starting to construction ending and, everything being kind of the ribbon cutting for the bridge. But the buyouts is what's going to drive a lot of this timeline moving forward. Getting people to settle in court for different property evaluations, those kind of things.
Suddenly their property's worth a lot more money.
I would say more the opposite. Suddenly
Well,
their
the
property's a lot
courthouse.
less, more valuable.
Well, no, I mean to them, like the courthouse, when they tried to buy
Right.
out those properties, they didn't want to sell.
We're working on another project with ODOT on Highway 33 for a widening from, what is that? I live right next to it and I can never remember. What's behind the temple? What road is that? Sorry.
Capital?
Other side.
Drexel?
Drexel. From Drexel down to, I think, 105. They're looking at widening. So they're going to start working on that here soon. I don't know that timeline as well yet, but I'll try and get that to you back in
I
January.
didn't know they were gonna do that. When I guess everyone's been so preoccupied with the viaduct.
Yep.
I didn't know they were doing that either.
So that'll be except don't want to blindside you guys. So.
That?
When did that?
A lot of it is being partnered with the stoplights that are planned to be
Are they putting new
put in
ones?
place as well.
I see.
With the new truck stops, those kind of things going
Gotcha.
in.
And so, I guess, okay, in terms of an agenda, do you have any other staff comments you need to make? And we'll keep asking board comments.
I've spread enough hot air.
Okay, cool.
Right.
So we'll consider ourselves in the middle of the board comment section. In terms of that project down on 33, I did get an email this past week, someone asking about if they're going to be doing all that stuff on Division, surely they're putting sidewalks in. This person was really concerned that a lot of people have to, people that work down in a lot of the fast food jobs, they walk to those jobs from the neighborhoods. So, which is something I didn't even think about, but that's a fantastic idea, especially if they're going to be tearing up the road. and replacing a lot of, you know, whatever else they're gonna be replacing, adding sidewalks is not that big of an expense
Right.
in the grand scheme of things.
Mhm.
So, and I talked with Cody, and you said that the city has, you know, mentioned the need to have sidewalks to ODOT. I left a message with, I think I eventually, after a number of different phone calls, got to the engineer, I think, who's in charge of it, or I don't know if anybody's in charge of it at this point, but and left a message with him to ask him about what the status of that is. And I did get a phone call back at my office, so I just need to call him back again, that kind of thing. So,
Well, what is, because to ride your bike on the sidewalk is a big fat no-no, correct?
In certain parts of downtown, not everywhere.
Are you sure?
Positive.
So, I'm just
You
giving you a
just
hard
have to
time.
get hit by a car.
Well, I mean, the reason I was saying, because you know how, you know, they have, a lot of times they're blacktop, but they're wide, maybe a little wider than a sidewalk. And they will have, you know, these metal things, but it's, you know, like bikes and pedestrians can share the lane. It's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I would really like for that, you know, it's the same going up Noble. From the bottom of the viaduct, straight up Noble West, you know?
Yep.
I mean,
Will ODOT pay for those?
well, there's sidewalks, but I'm afraid to ride on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Because Noble's too busy.
Oh yeah.
I'm afraid to ride my bike on Noble.
Yeah, I would be.
But I don't want to get, I don't want to get a $100 ticket either.
It's not on the sidewalks throughout the entire town. You can ride on the sidewalks in certain, and like I said, it's even certain parts of downtown that are not even that rule applies. So.
I think it's just the central business district that has an ordinance that says you have to walk your bike.
Right.
And that's just so you don't run over the person coming out of the shop, that kind of
Right.
thing. I think in the rest of the city, I think legally you can ride on the sidewalk, but, you know, like you said, the sidewalks in a lot of places,
It wouldn't do you any good to ride a bike down Division because
Still-
the sidewalk doesn't continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Stillwater just did kind of what you're talking about as far as the barricades, and that was on a state highway, and ODOT didn't pay anything for that.
Oh.
That was all city funded. All right.
but I know that with things like the viaduct, it's going to have, you know, sidewalks are going to be included in that project, obviously. And so I think getting ODOT to do, you know, some kind of sidewalk work down, you know, 33 to the east, hopefully it's not something that's, you know, impossible to do. All right. Any other board comments? Okay, I can't think of anything else either.
I just want to say, so in summation, you are going to email us a list before the next meeting, is that correct?
That's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, and then that gives us time to ponder and all that wonderful stuff. And then we come back to the meeting, then we decide at that time what we're going to tackle, what we, you know, for 2015, the projects that we want to, you know, go forward with.
Yep. What your priorities are. Of course, we'll look into how those priorities fit into specific projects in the downtown. Like I said, I'll try and put together what we might have already available. Obviously, I'll bring in the South Division schematic portfolio that was done, so that you guys can see that, you know, we have we're baby steps in the right direction, but at least we're baby steps. You know, we'll talk about a little bit of what grant funding might be there. You know, we're going to rely a lot on grant funding or other miraculous money to pop up when we're doing these things, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to invest, you know, some time into it. We'll always, you know, we'll turn over every single stone that we can for making sure that, you know, our kids can travel to to and from school safely, our pedestrians feel comfortable in our downtown, we will always be looking for those opportunities.
If we end up with objectives that are infrastructure related, so much of that funding is determined by funding cycles. So I have no idea, but if we have a project that we'd like to see it accomplished, if that funding cycle doesn't even open up until the end of the year, we might have to set that in terms of this. We want to accomplish that by the end of the fourth quarter or the third quarter, and try to figure out some other kind of smaller goals to work on for the first and second quarter, that kind of thing.
Sounds wise.
All right. Anything else? Okay. So it's 6:45. If we're going to be working on that in January, that sounds like that might be the kind of thing that takes a little bit more than an hour, maybe. So so maybe be prepared to spend a little more than 6 to 7 in January. Hopefully, this group rarely has to meet for more than an hour on a Tuesday evening. But for that kind of initial planning type meeting, maybe plan a little more. So, after an hour, I get super anxious and I start to freak out a little bit.
He sits through too many volunteer meetings for the city is what happens.
I started to get super paranoid that people were starting to hate their life in this meeting after more than an hour. So, yeah, that's me.
Don't feel bad. Our principal only has 25-minute meetings and nobody wants to be in there.
Oh man.
She does them before school, so.
What do you teach?
I teach 6th grade Western Hemisphere geography.
Hey,
Middle school.
that's
But it's
exactly what
middle
my wife
school
teaches.
there.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Unless we have any other comments, we're adjourned.
All right.